Good morning, everyone. Are you everyone awake? I don't hear you. Come on. It's marvelous to see so many coming here. This is actually, as you said before, the 10th European MUM. And from the beginning it was a small event, and now just look at yourself. Marvelous. Okay, I'm going to have a small presentation about CAPsMAN. And the thing is with this, it's been announced before, it's 1-year-old feature, but still, I haven't seen it been done live, and that's what we're going to do. So, who I am? Yeah, I have a family, 2 kids, beekeeping as hobby, but that's not why I'm here. Why I'm here is because I'm a consultant on MikroTik. I was the first one that was posted on MikroTik homepage from Sweden. I was on the first training course in Poland with the certificate of 003 as a trainer, and I'm here as a 10-year anniversary as a distributor for MikroTik. The objects for this is to give you a view of how you put MikroTik CAPS Manager up and running. It's not that complicated, it's rather easy. Both layer 2 and layer 3 are routed, so you could have, for instance, a sub-office that you want to be surfing on the same network, and how to get that one up and running. And this is going to be a live lab here, so I'm going to do some configurations, and you see as I'm building it up from scratch. As it is for the moment, I don't even have Dhcp to my laptop yet. So we're starting from real bottom and bring it up from scratch. Are you ready for that? How many is using CAPS Manager already? Okay, I could go out directly. So, CAPS Manager features. Let's start up with that. It's the central management of access points. It provisions all your access points, so you don't need to do all the work on each one. MAC and IP layer communications directly locally or routed through the network or internet. Certificate support, and that's what we're actually going to pull up for this lab also. Full and local forwarding, so you could have all traffic going to the CAPS Manager and then third route on the internet. So you bring them together in one network. Or you, in the sub-office, you drop it off on the local network to have your internet connectivity locally and not through the head office. Radius MAC authentication, as on all access points, we have the same feature built into the CAPS Manager. And you could do some extra custom configuration if you want to. It also supports dual band access points in provisioning. In CAPsMAN 2, that's the one we're going to be running. You have automatic upgrade of the CAP clients, so you could get all the access point upgraded directly from your CAPS Manager instead of you going around doing it manually. Saves you a lot of headache. One of my access points is not upgraded, and one is actually upgraded a little bit too far. It's a better protocol. It works faster in updating. We have the name format. We could put in a prefix for instance, 2.4 access points or 5 GHz access points, so you see directly in the interface list which one is actually running. And you could also see much easier when the client is roaming from one access point to the other one inside directly in the log. It also finds out the layer 2 MAC level MTU, because the thing is, if you route it through the internet, you're not 100% sure what MTU is actually on the link. It could be over a PPTP, it could be on any kind of network. So this slide, I just put it here so you have it as a note later on. How to upgrade from CAPS Manager to 1 to 2. The problem is, CAPS Manager 2 and 1 is not compatible at all with each other. So if you have a client that's running version 1, it's not going to connect to version 2. vice versa. There's two ways to do it. Either you pull in a new CAPS manager with the new version on it and upgrade one by one of the clients. Or you upload all the files to the client, put in a script, and schedule the reboot. Once the reboot is done, you're going to be running CAPS Manager 2 on the clients. Then you could go back to your head-end CAPS Manager, start up the configuration there, or actually just drag in CAPS Manager 2, reboot at the same time. You're going to have very short outage of service. So to prepare for the CAPS Manager, we need to do some things. We need to have the IP setup done. We need to bridge make the bridge for the interfaces, IP on the bridge, Dhcp server for the client, and preferably also for your CAPS. And you also need to be running 6.11 or later. Now is when I'm switching down to what's on the table here and running it locally. So give me just a couple of seconds. You see the same as me? Yeah. We are now in our CAPS Manager. That's not configured at all. That's why I'm actually also communicating for the moment on the Mac level, as my laptop doesn't even have an IP for the moment, because that part is not done. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up a bridge where I'm actually going to have administrative accounts for our technicians on the access point. So I'll be running double SSID, one for the technicians and one for normal guests. So I start up by building the two bridges. One that's going to be for the technician network, and the other one is going to be for guests. So we bring up the tech one, and that's the for technician one. I'm going to add the port that's actually the master port of my CRS down on the table here to that bridge one. That gives me two benefits, as later on when I'm connected to that engineering network, I'm going to be able to see all my CAPs, because they're going to come in on the same interface. Because otherwise, in CAPS Manager, you're isolating your network so you don't see the physical interfaces or the physical access points. So let's bring an IP on that interface. It's actually already there, but we don't have a Dhcp server. Makes it much easier for me to run. Take it down to a little bit lower lease time. Now my computer should start getting an IP at least. One of my access points has already got its IP. And I'm now connected with IP instead. Second of all, we go to the next part. We bring up a new bridge. This is just going to be for the clients, our guest network. So I just put the name onto it and you put it as guest mum. I don't have internet connectivity to my router, so I'm not going to have internet on this access point for the moment. We put an IP on this one too. Preferably something else than we had on the other one. So 10.20.1.24. This is going to be the IPs for my clients connecting to the guest network later on. We do the same thing here. We put a Dhcp server on it. just run the guide quickly. As it's going to be a guest network, I think we should put it down to about 20 minutes lease time, so we just save our IP addresses. Now the basic IP setups are done. That needs to be done for every client later on. So let's go in and start doing the CAPS manager. This is actually the time we're going to be a little bit Arabic. We're going to read from the right to the left, because that's actually the way you put it up, because then everything is going to come together in the end. Registration table, that's where we're going to have our clients later on. Radio is where we're going to find all our radio interfaces, or the information about them. Remote CAP is also going to show you exactly what CAPs are actually connected to the system. Their software version, their ID, and everything is going to come up. But let's start up with the roaming part and put in 2 access list rules. And these ones are going to be done on the signal level version. Because the thing is, we don't want to have 2 weak clients coming in on the CAPs. It's better than starting to roam to another one or trying to go to another access point in your network, especially if you have a big network with plus 50 access points. So we make first an accept rule. That's going to cover down to -80 in signal strength and up to 120. And that's just an accept rule. I forgot to put in accept actually. So there, we're accepting those clients. Next rule we're going to put in is -81 as maximum, and this is going to be a react instead. When a client comes in or become too weak, you're going to see in the log 2 weak signal. It actually tells you that in the log directly, nice and easy. If there is any questions, just put up your hand, okay? Now let's go for the security. As the tech network, we want to have an encrypted network. You don't want to have your clients be able to go into that one. So I'm going to go for WPA2 and AS encryption. And let's take TechMAN 2015. Now we have the security configuration for our technicians. It's not for our main clients in our end. And we do a guest one. And that one is just going to be an open network, so we don't need to put any information in at all. We just run it as it is. Now it comes to the data path. Same thing here, we want to have a tech data path, because that one is going to be connected to that tech bridge that we created earlier. So we have that IP addresses for all our CAPs, we have that addresses for all our clients coming in on that network. We put it into the bridge tech. We don't need to do anything else in this case, because we don't want to isolate client-to-client communication here. We don't want to isolate in between different access points and so on, because this is our technician network. We go to the guest network. Here, of course, we need to put it into the bridge that we created. That's the guest network. We're going to add bridge horizon to it. With the trick, which was just put in a number here, you're going to isolate traffic from one access point to the other access point. And then on the client side, you could also limit down so the clients are not having client-to-client communication on the access point. This way, they're only going to get internet straight through, and they're not going to have their broadcast traffic going over the network over the other access points. It's only going to be local traffic straight to the internet. And client-to-client, here's where we actually decide if the clients are able to talk to each other or not. And we don't want them to do that. Now we come to the next thing. Actually, another presentation later on today going to show you this a little bit more exact. But we have 3 working channels on 2.4. It's 2412 is one of them, 37 and 62. So let's bring these ones up now. We're going to use them later on to actually spread out our access points that we're going to put here. So when we make the channels, and it doesn't make sense to do this if you just have 3 or 2 access points. But when you have 50 of them, it's very easy to just drop down and change. So we put in the name, same as the frequency. We have a 20 megahertz channel. We say BGN. And we disable the extension channel. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to run 3 access points in the same space. We put down that we want to have a TX power of 20. Later on, when we go into the client's caps, we're going to show exactly where the small things you need to do to actually end it up as 20 when you use it. So we do the same thing with 2437. BGN mode, disable, and 20 dBm is TX power. And we do the same thing. Oh, 62, 20, BGN mode. I don't have any dual band ones here. They didn't give me one of these nice new things. Now I have the 3 channels configured that we're going to be able to use later on when the interfaces are running. Now we're going to combine all these settings that we already done into some configurations. One for the technicians and one for the guest network. We start with the guest network. It's going to be in access point mode. And in this case, I'm going to put it into MUM 2015-guest test. This is just a test network, so you're going to later on be able to see it. I didn't find Czech Republic in the regulatory domain listing. Is it just me that's looking wrong? Nope. So we put it into Sweden. It's the same regulatory domain. I wasn't. I start with C. There it is, yeah. Thank you. We don't need to do anything else on this one. We don't do any channels for the moment, because we do that later on when the interfaces are showing up in the CAPS manager. But we need, of course, to put in a data path. And this place is going to be guest, and we put in the guest as security setting also. That's the master configuration for the guest network. And we do the same thing with tech network. Now we'll be in Arabic again. So we go security tech, data path, tech. Channels, we didn't do anything. Here we are. And Czech Republic. There it is. No. There it is. Access point, SSID, tech network. This is the configurations that are going to be provisioned out by the CAPS manager once we've done the provisioning in settings. So let's go to provisioning, because that's the next part we want to do. We don't want to go in and configure each client CAP. We want that to be done automatically on the fly. You just plug them in and everything is good. So we start with putting in a bunch of zeros as MAC address, because we want this one to hit all CAPs coming in. Except that in this case I want to have them as GN support. This is what I have here. If I would come with an AC card, I would put in a configuration that's going to look for AC cards. If it has AC cards, I do the settings for AC. Because what I'm also doing down here later on is we create them enabled. We have the guest network as the first configuration. I actually missed to put the name on the second configuration here. So let's do that. So it becomes a little bit more visible for us, what we're doing. We have the tech network, we put in that one as master in this case. And then we have the slave configuration, that's going to be the guest. And then we have a small setting that's the name format, how we want these names of the interfaces to come up. And I want to have a prefix, and then on top of that, the identity of my access points. This could be next to door number what in a hotel. It could be access point 1, 2, 3, whatever. But that's you decide. Put that name in, and you're easily going to find them later on when you troubleshoot. At this point, I'm putting in 2.4 gigahertz hyphen. This is the prefix I'm putting in. And this is going to end up on the name of all the interfaces later on. Now we need to turn off the CAPS manager. By default, it's not turned on. So we go in and enable our CAPS manager. Ticket in, enable. Certificate, we put them into auto. Because we're actually going to run the certificates here now. So you see that I actually managed to do everything for you. I put in a folder on my machine called CAPS with files for other types of clients. Because if the clients are running the same architecture as you are running on your master, they're going to be upgraded directly from the master without the installation files. But if you, for instance, in my case here, have a PowerPC, or you have an app here, Light, for instance, that's running on a different architecture, you need to have the upgrade files locally on the machine. So in this case, I've made a folder called CAPS, and in that one, I'm putting the upgrade files for those systems. And I'm requiring the same version. This is the way you get CAPS Manager to upgrade all your clients in one go. Just do apply here and give it a couple of seconds. You're going to see there's the first certificate coming in. And there's another one. Now everything on our controller is done. You do this setup once, or when you do any changes. So just minimize this one for the moment and go into the first access point. This is my access point client. And that's the ones looking a little bit extra. You see that it's 6.28 RC12. This is me doing just because I want to show a certain thing. So I actually went a little bit further with this one. We go to wireless on it. As you see, the wireless card is disabled. I'm going to advanced mode and put it into Czech Republic. Regulatory domain. The thing here is, once this is done, and you put in the antenna gain that you have on this radio, then CAPsMAN is actually pulling that information. So if you have a 14 dBi antenna, 10 dBi or 7 or whatever, it's going to be calculated in so you have the output power out to 20 dBm. And it's going to be done by the CAPS Manager. But you need to do this setting on each client because CAPS Manager can't know up front what antenna you are using or what antenna array you're using. So in this case, normal 2.4 antenna. If it's an external antenna, it would be about 7 dBi, so I'm putting that one in. And now we go to CAPS, because here's where we have the client part to actually connect to the CAPS manager. We need to enable it, of course. We're telling to the CAPS manager what radio card are you allowed to run. In this case, there's only one in the unit, so it's going to be a wireless LAN 1. I'm going to request a certificate to actually be using certificates in between the CAPS and the CAPS manager. This doesn't mean that the traffic itself is encrypted, the data load. That needs to be secured by other means, for instance, IPsec or whatever. But at least it's securing the communication in between the two units. And I'm going to tell the unit what the interface is actually facing towards the CAPS manager. Now I need to check. It's number 1 in this case. I could also put in lock to CAPS manager. In that case, it's going to use the certificate that it gets from the CAPS manager and lock down to that one. So you're never going to be able to change the CAPS manager. You can't have a rogue CAPS manager coming into the network. We're not doing that for the moment. And we just do apply. Give it a couple of seconds. Number 1. Yeah, it is enabled. You don't need to enable the wireless interface, actually, because CAPS manager is taking over that. Doesn't matter in this case. It's my certificate that's become wrong. The time server is wrong. Just for the sake of the lab. No, we do like this instead. I need to clear the logs of my old security. There's an old certificate that's sitting there that didn't clear out as it should. Now you should actually see both the SSIDs coming out of this one. But as you see, it still runs 28RC12. If we go in and look in the log, it's actually going to say that it's okay because of that it's a newer version than it had in the first one. So it says it's same or newer. It doesn't do a downgrade for you. It only stays on the same version in this case. So the access point 1 is done. Don't be scared by it says that it's grayed down here. The only reason for that is that it's not a local forwarding. All the traffic goes directly to the CAPS manager, and the SSIDs are up and running. And if you do connect to these ones, you would get the Dhcp directly from my server. So now let's go to CAPS manager client number 2. And as you see, there's not an IP there. So we connect directly on the MAC address. Same thing here, the interface is disabled. So let's go to here. We go to advanced mode, put in Czech Republic. We go to the CAP. All of you remember that we don't have an IP here now. You did that? Did you see that? So we just do like this, interface. And then this one is actually number 2. There's still no IP on the CAP. But as you see here now, it's starting to download something because it says here 3 megabit of traffic. So let's see what this is. We go to our manager. We go into the log. And it says, should upgrade. Ask to upgrade to 627. It's rebooting. The upgrade is done directly to that unit now. It didn't have an IP. It didn't get an IP, and it was not supposed to do that in this lab, but it still did the upgrade. And the one that's sitting here in front probably heard a small beep here. We see the first 2 interfaces from the first one. And here now access point 2 is coming also. You get the prefix 2.4 gigahertz, access point 1, and then we have access point 2 here. Now I have an extra access point here. This one is running, sitting behind one of my access points. It's going to be running routed in. And to do this a little bit more interesting, I'm actually going to do this with OSPF. So we do routing, we do OSPF. So we need to add at least the network for the interfaces that we're having here. And that was 10, 10, 10, 0/24. We just add that to the backbone. You see here, disconnected registered to other interface. Someone is connecting here, so they're moving in between. We go to access point 1. This is the one actually having an interface facing towards my extra access point. Let's check first what networks is here. It's 1050.01. This one is actually running a Dhcp server, so I know that my client sitting behind it is having an IP. We go to networks. We put in the 10 series network here to the backbone, and we add the 1050 /30. That was a 0 that disappeared. There it is. If I now look into my controller, I should have got that IP coming in. Yes, we have communication to our extra access point. So let's go into that one. 1050.0.2. This is my extra access point. This is small MAP. So let's do the same thing here. We just go in, we go to the wireless, advanced mode, Czech Republic. So we follow the regulations in this country at least. Or at least try. I don't know if everything is going to work. We go to the CAP. And here instead we have our wireless LAN interface. And we don't put in a discovery interface. It's not directly connected, so we need to route it. So instead we're going to put in the IP that the controller is having. And apply. Here is the last interfaces coming up. So now we have 3 access points. Let's go in here, CAPS Manager. You see all the 3 access points here? The only problem is we're not controlling for the moment what frequency they are. So we can't guarantee that they're not overlapping frequencies. Now that comes in those 3 channels I made earlier. We tap in to the first interface. We change it to 2412, channel 1. Let's go to access point 2, 6, 37. And then we go to 62. Now we have locked down these ones for 3 different frequencies. If this would be a very big installation, for instance, you would have a lot of these access points, so then you needed to do this on a lot of interfaces. And it takes longer time to type in all the settings here in the frequency setting of the interface, then you just do it directly on the channel. You just choose the channel. Yes, you are. You could use the outer channel. The problem is that you can't guarantee it's going to be a correct one. So even if they have the outer channel, if you don't put in the frequency, either here or on the channel, it's going to do an outer channeling by default if you don't put anything in. With the scan list? Yep, with the scan list.
Can you do that from the manager, or do you have to set it in the...
Scan list is done on the clients.
Okay.
So it's using the standard scan list. If we now look into our CAPS Manager controller, there it is. We go to remote cap. You see that you have 627 of 2 of them and 28 RC12. And the RC12 is because it's not downgrading, it's only upgrading. This was a very small installation. I have a small, on my presentation here, we have a small installation in Sweden. Could you see in the bottom what it says down there? It is 236 virtual interfaces running. This is running on a 1009 controller. It's a hotel. They have more than 50 access points, and they have peaked over 800 clients online. And we've never seen more load on this system than about 2 to 3%. But they have a gigabit fiber coming in. Any questions? It can't be that good, so there's no questions. There's the microphone coming.
How can I use AAA configuration in CAPsMAN interface site on Winbox?
What did you say?
AAA configuration in interfaces under CAPsMAN on Winbox.
Let me see.
How can I use it?
First of all, you need to configure this part here in AAA. You need to put in the radius client also.
Please.
Ah, it's the wrong slide. Thanks. First you go to AAA here and do the configuration part here, exactly as you would do on a normal access point. There's no difference at all. Where's the radius server? There it is. And then after that, you need to configure radios. And it should be wireless here. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Uldis.
Okay, so there is no possibility to configure use radius to account CEP.
Count APs. What?
APs.
No, not to count the APs itself.
Just the
That's
clients.
not done by the radios.
Okay.
Because for the radius server, the only thing you're going to see is the CAPsMAN. You're not going to see each individual access point from a radius part seen.
Understood. Thanks.
You're welcome. There's one more here. We should have had 2 microphones. Or you get a lot of exercise. I maybe should do that myself.
It's on? Yeah. I got a question, and it's about virtual interfaces or virtual access points and local forwarding. It's not possible with automatic bridges?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yeah. Because if you have local forwarding, let's go into a client here.
I got a problem because they always get a new name, and I can't put it.
The thing is, if you create them static, as I'm doing here, just create enable, not dynamic enable. They're not changing name.
Oh.
So I think that's the answer to your question.
Okay, I think so. Have to try. Thanks.
Oh, that was one in the behind there.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering why would we use this CAPsMAN instead of API that MikroTik has already?
What did you say?
API. MikroTik has API, so we can control every access point on network with API.
Yeah, but the thing is with this is when you want to put in a new SSID, going to put in a new encryption key, you do it in one place. That's why you do this. And it goes directly. It's an instant on all access point in one click. You just put in a new passphrase in the security configuration, done. And that's what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you have one place to monitor the clients. That was coming here in the front. You just go to the registration table, and there is clients on it, at least it was, yeah. So far I've had 5 clients online on mine.
Another question.
Yes.
There is impossible to config CAPsMAN like cluster or HA?
Not really, but you could have more than one CAPsMAN running on a network, so if one of them goes down and it has the same configuration, it's going to take over.
Yeah, but
in that case you would run it as dynamic interfaces, because if you lose the main one, you don't want to have one that's coming all the time.
Okay, but both of that CAPsMAN have to have the same configuration, yeah?
Yes.
There is some impossible to push that configuration on the both of CAPsMAN?
No, but what you do is you do an export of the first one and cut and paste into the other one, an import.
Okay.
That's the fastest way to do it, at least. There was a lot of questions. I must have done a bad presentation here.
Hi. Is there a way to get CAPsMAN to create the VLANs as well?
Yes, there is.
On the Ethernet interface, though?
Yeah. What you do is that in the data path setting, as we showed, you have in the bottom here, you have VLAN mode.
Isn't that only on the wireless interface?
No. It's also on the interface itself. You have it also in the setting for the client. If you go into the client oh no, I didn't have any client up here. So let's go to the client. Now use it on the bridge there. But it's not VLAN tagged, if I'm correct, out. It's going to come directly on the local forwarding. It's going to come VLAN tagged on the local.
So far, all I've tested doesn't get it. I will try again, probably.
I think you're running version 1.
No, version 2.
Is that correct, Ulrich? We were discussing that earlier, if it was working as it should, but I don't think it is.
Actually, if you are using local forwarding, first you do in the CAPS manager add that VLAN mode on which AP you assign that VLAN. Then that VLAN is tagged into that AP, but you need to add a VLAN interface on the Ethernet side where your CAPsMAN is located.
Okay.
Currently, there's no way around it at the moment.
I think that was the problem you had, wasn't it? Yeah. Answer from the right guy directly.
Hi.
Hi.
Is there any way to push a default configuration to the CAP with CAPsMAN or with the DHCP server on the CAPsMAN?
No, not in this way. What you do is you use FlashFig for all your clients that are going to use.
Okay, but it wouldn't run automatically.
No, and you just do that and enable the CAPsMAN setting, and then the rest is done by the CAPS manager. You don't need any, as you saw here, you don't even need an IP. So you just get it to actually say, this is the VLANs that's going to be running, and this is the discovery interface. That's more or less the only thing that needs to be done on the client side.
Okay, thank you.
Theoretically, if you have like board with a cap button, for example, MAP, you can hold it when you boot, and there's some specific seconds. When you release it, it will get cap mode. So you don't even need to log into the router.
That feature I haven't tried, so I need to try that later on. It works.
Hello, let me ask you please 2 questions.
Yeah.
Maybe I miss it in your presentation. Is there any limit of the maximum access points managed by one CAPsMAN? And if yes, is there any system of centralized management of many CAPsMANs if I exceed this limit? Thank you.
There is no limit, only the hardware, how many APs you can put. We have seen more than, I think 500 or 800 caps connected, managed by CAPsMAN.
That was the question answered directly.
So?
I think that's it. No, there's one more here in the front. And then we'll draw the line, I think.
Hi.
Oh, that was 2 in the front.
Hi, my question is regarding the channel selection. You said that the actual AP is scanning its neighborhood for 3 channels.
Yeah.
But actually, is it possible or is it configurable that the CAPsMAN collects this information and selects the right channels or the best channels available for the particular APs?
For the moment, there is none, but we could maybe discuss with the MikroTik guys to implement it.
Thank you.
That was the last one.
Hi. How does CAPsMAN influence or help with the roaming issue?
The main thing is, it's actually in this case we're kicking them out on a certain frequency. But the thing is, what I've noticed so far, it makes it much easier for the clients to move from one access point to another one, because the traffic is coming in a different way in. So the switches in between is not doing a problem with the packages. But it's actually, in this case, I'm just kicking it out. Exactly how they are doing it, I can't. That's Ulrich better to answer that question.
It's a secret, but basically all the roaming depends on the client. If it's a Windows, Apple, or some Linux box, all the roaming settings are usually in the client. Some roaming aggressiveness, if it should stay the most time at the same AP or roam to some different AP faster or not. So basically it's all done on the client side. Of course, not every driver or Apple you will allow to choose that setting, but usually it's done so.
Okay, that's thanks for me, and enjoy the rest of the month.